Okay, sit up straight, please. In some comfortable, upright position. Upright means really vertical in all dimensions, front, back, side to side. So there are actually some instructions in old texts about how to sit for meditation, and they keep it very simple. Nobody back in the old days that I have ever read discusses posture with such detail, physical detail, as Iyengar yoga. But there's lots of other detail. Anyway, the simple instruction from about 1200 years ago is rock to the right, rock to the left, go forward, go backward, and sit upright. So you just find out where you are in space. If it's only that, it could also be a more serious stretch that hip a little bit, open up, let go your back a little bit, lift your chest a little bit. So there may be letting you adjust how you stretch. In any case, sit up straight, sit evenly balanced on both buttock bones, front, back, side to side. Release the arms. Keep this chest lifted so the release of the arms doesn't pull your chest down. Keep the lift of the chest and the spreading of the shoulders equal. Join your palms. Close your eyes. Take your attention in. Keep adjusting your posture. Then be still in this manner with the senses drawn in and the arms and legs still. We prepare for this practice, becoming humble like students, receptive, and remembering the depth of tradition back to that root teacher, Patanjali, who himself said his wisdom came from long before him. Bow to this practice. Release your hands, raise your head, open your eyes. Stretch your legs. Make sure you're seated properly. You could be flat on the floor or elevated. Make it so you can be comfortable and upright, but stretch your legs forward. So I'm showing you my feet because I want to start with the extremities, hands, feet. So stretch your, either go to the floor through the fingers or to your seated ground with your palms. Either way, take Dandasana. Now stretch your feet all the way to the toes. Truthfully, To move your foot, you use from the knee down, to point your toes, to push your heel, to go left, right, to do any of this requires your calf. All of these muscles operate your foot. So when I say spread your foot, I'm also saying compact the calf muscle and stretch outward to that foot. Okay, from the knee up, in theory, you don't need much activity. This can be quiet. At this point, spread the foot, compact the ankle, the calf, outer calf in, inner calf out, and stretch your leg from the knee to the foot. Look to the sides of your calves. If your foot is spreading, if you are spreading your foot, spreading and lengthening, you will develop a groove of activity in the muscle of the outer calf, a racing stripe. The more you spread this outer foot, the more the outer calf cuts in. Make that happen right up to the, sorry, I keep turning, right up to the top outer knee, that whole line. In the midst of that, see if you can release, and I mean release, it's not a big grippy activity, but lengthen the outer thigh to the hip socket. Push your foot out and then zero in on this outer thigh bone. The inner thigh is quiet, inner groin quiet. There's no push out from the groin. There's no grip in any direction through the groin. The groin should feel like it's connected to the abdomen and disengaged from this leg stuff. Stretch your arms, fingers, wrists, elbows. And from that outward push, engage the forearm, same way as the calf. Cut this muscle in and push this big muscle that bumps up on the top of the forearm. Cut it in and push it out to the hand. So from the elbow out, from the knee out, you are quite active. From the upper limb, the upper bone of that limb, there is a tuck into the socket. So in the arm, just like the leg, it's the outer bone into the socket. Outer bone comes in, just to the socket, not to your skull. Do this properly, and softness comes to the abdomen, to the chest, to the hips and shoulders. It's not like you're fighting with the hips and shoulders. Let go. Let's try it differently. We're going to take that quartet of Virasana with the knees apart, toes together, sitting upright. That's part one. Part two is Adho Mukha Virasana. And in that pose, if the hips are supported, so is the head. And for those who have shoulder trouble, you may have to elevate the hands. Okay, so part two is some form of Adho Mukha Virasana. Part three, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And part four, walking back to Uttanasana. That's the 4 parts. Start with your toes together, knees apart, and if you need a little knee protection, have it. If those hips are very lifted, meaning much height, you will need some kind of support under your head, preferably that doesn't move. Okay, sit up. First things first, stretch that shin. Reach from your hands, pull the shin bone forward toward the knee. Both feet. Your one hand pulls the foot away from the knee. So you stretch in both directions. Then, taking this out, you have to actively reach back through the big toes. Find that groove again. Do you see it? Sorry, cat's in the way. There's a shadow here that might show when I reach. Do you see how that wakes up? Lazy, active. Bring the outer ankle in. Push your big toe, the thumb of your foot, sharply away. Relax the thigh. Relax the groins. Stay very active in the shins coming forward. And is when the arms wake up, a similar thing happens. The palms, wrists, fingers, forearms really stretch. You are just exactly in the wrong spot. Exactly. Scoot. So you're stretching your shins back to the toes, pacify the thigh. Stretching your forearms forward to the floor. The thigh releases to the hip, the groin quiets. The upper arm draws to the shoulder socket, the shoulder blade gets away from the skull, and the neck and throat get quiet. So you see forward pushing arms, backward pushing shins. Okay, come up on hands and knees. So when you're here, turn your toes under, wide awake foot, press those forearms, but don't just push the floor. Don't just push out. That looks like this. You need to keep the outward push and then draw that arm back to the socket. It's quieting, opening the chest. The thing that's working is the forearm. Now push. Upper arm to the shoulder, forearm, pushing forward. Don't strain the hands, just use that forward push. Now the legs, your heels are up, but spread those toes, make that groove in the outer calf. Stretch your feet like mad. Wake up that outer calf right to the top. Do you not notice your legs are straightening more easily? Arms straightening more easily. Draw the outer thigh bone to the hip socket. Keep the groin passive. Outer upper arm to the shoulder socket. Okay, now pull back as far as you can through those legs, taking the heels toward the floor. Move your arms back, maybe maximum 6 inches. Walk your hands back and pull back through the legs. Stop, wait, you gotta stop. 6 inches, I said, Pratima. Just a short dog. Now walk back farther, pull with the legs. Push with the arms, walk back farther. You're going gradually each time pulling. making the legs complete. Now, when the leg gets to vertical, so back it up all the way to Uttanasana vertical. So the weight is going through the foot into that floor. So here's your first pose with the foot flat on the floor. Open it to the floor. Open, open, open. The idea of pushing with the hands and stretching the foot, in theory, already establishes that open foot. But if you went too fast, fix it now. Open that foot. And again, rocking forward, backward, left, right, if you need to. Balance that foot. Activate the shin. Establish that foot on the floor heavily. And as you just draw the thigh to the hip socket, keep the groins passive and do not let the weight on the floor change. Push the floor. Active shin. Pull the outer thigh up to the hip. The groin takes care of itself softly. I hope. Now, keep your legs firm, feet planted and spread. Outer calves firm, outer thighs firm in the sockets. Bring your hands to your hips and inhale, come up. Then get ready for a standing pose or two. This may mean if there is stiffness, you should put a chair in the picture. First to the right side. And if you're working with bricks, take bricks. Stand in Tadasana. So this chair to the right side is for standing poses, so it can't be right next to your side. It has to be a bit away if you're gonna use it. Anyway, so you need that lateral space if you've got it. And if you're working near a wall, and Chaya, if the BP is misbehaving at all, use the wall. If your BP is fine, stay as you are. Good. That's true for anybody. Sense of balance going awry, be near a wall. I'm not saying lean on it, but make it so that's not the issue. It's a distractor at first. It gets better if you do the work right. Now, Tadasana with the feet apart. And I do things because I have, everybody's got this, but you'll find out. You want the sole of your foot as open as possible to the floor. No folding, no twisting. Okay, stand straight. Then in that context, spread the feet. Wake up those outer calves. Stretch that foot into the floor. And here's the thing. When you're really, really struggling, sometimes the toes pick up, the toes really struggle. Eventually, they have to come down too. That's like a misfire when you pick up the toes. Draw away from that push into the floor, pacify the groins. Don't push from the groins. They're just a communication channel. Tuck the outer thigh to the hip socket. Now stretch your wrists and forearms. Pacify this armpit, right? Don't grip here as you grip the hand. Ungrip this armpit the same way you ungrip this inner thigh. Make the outer upper arm firm, tuck into the socket. And you can feel the activity is in the extremities, this from the knee out, from the elbow out. That's the genuine extremity. Okay, take your arms to the sides. If you are slack and dull with the extremity, the anchor of the action has to struggle more. So put a band of strength just below the elbow, wrapped around that thick part of the forearm. Like you see when people with tennis elbow wear a band. Make your own band and stretch your forearms. Make the shoulders quiet. Turn your palms up. Keep that same band active, stretching from here out. So this part can both expand and also be soft, no pull, no harshness. Okay, arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. No loss of forearm action, no loss of peacefulness in this chest and throat. Release, come out. Take your feet apart. So, body parts in focus today. This outer extremity has to, well, the focus is the extremities. In this pose, you can feel what the tendencies are from the knee down to roll out. So bring that outer calf in so you can lengthen the inner foot into the floor as well. Outer thigh to the hip socket. Sometimes people cramp, but as you get, the cramp is a sign that first the bone's going into the socket correctly, or it's going in, but it's also a sign that it's overworking. So can you open up height, keeping that shin working? Stretch your arms. Turn to the right, left toes in, right leg out. Now, feel free to put your hands back on your hips and go back into those feet. They just changed, right? So have the outer thighs, but you have to get back. The absolute push into the floor and the tuck to the hips. Now, to take Trikonasana, don't lose the foot. Absolute steady push. And from that tucked up thigh in the hip socket, you steer. That groin's soft. Shoulders, armpits soft. The hand goes to the chair, it goes to your shin, or it goes to your brick. It goes to whatever you've given it. Now pull through the wrists and forearms. Open that chest. And from the extremities, all four of them, come up. Turn the feet. Rest your arms for a second. Move the prop as you may need to. Stretch your arms, stretch your legs. Extremities. You get more efficient at it over time, but don't get lazy. Turn the right toes in, re-spread that foot, stretch the toes. Turn the left leg. Now push your left shin, compact and into that floor. Tuck the thigh away. Bend right from those thigh bones in the hip sockets. The lengthening of that thigh to the hip, away from the steady foot. That's what gives you peacefulness coming into this pose. Now, stretch those forearms away from each other. And if you're feeling good, the pose can lengthen Now, open that chest. And from the extremities, all forward, this arm does not lose its reach as you come up. Inhale, come up. Turn the feet. Now, you can stay like this, but watch, you fold forward. Now, the weight stays over the feet. And you still stretch forward. So from the side, you keep the weight vertically over the feet and you stretch your arms forward. If need be, you work with bricks or a chair so you really can extend. Now again, the extremities. Keep the weight vertically over the feet. So use your sensors. It's kind of interesting. The organs of action are focused outward. So I'm just super indulging that. Make the extremity completely alert. And what happens is the inner body gets reflective. Now, see what happens. To come out, keep your position. Don't move the feet closer if you can possibly manage, but keep that extremity pressing into the floor. Bring your hands back, hands to the hips, thighs into the hip sockets. Come up from extremities. Come up. The senses and the organs that bring your feet together, the senses and the organs of action are built facing outwards. But the whole process of yoga is taking those outward focused actions and letting them reflect in. Those outward looking senses get released inward right from the beginning. That's the whole process of yoga. Taking the outgoing mind and turning it around, so it goes in. Parshva Konasana. With bricks, with chairs. If you will use a chair because there's something going on at the hips, you can put the chair in front of this shin. So when you come into the pose, you can follow instructions. Nice. If there is a weakness, this is how you will support in Parshva Konasana. If you need a chair instead of a brick, if you need to come higher, that's what it looks like. Okay. Take your feet apart. It's actually quite an interesting way to work, but now I will also say you are more than welcome to put the brick in front of the shin or in back. In front, again, it's a bit easier to work with limits in the hips. Here, it requires that you do the whole pose. So get what you're prepared to do. Balance those feet, wake up the extremities. Stretch your arms, same way. Quiet armpits, quiet groins. Turn the feet. Make sure your pose is long enough for Parshva Konasana. Now anchor that back foot toes, heels, inner, outer, thigh into the hip, front leg. You be standing on the foot as that knee bends. Be clear that the knee stays vertically over that foot. Stretch from the extremities to take this hand down to wherever you put that brick. I'd say keep it a bit tall at first. Now stretch those extremities. Put that back foot into the floor. Thighs into the hip sockets. Now stretch those arms away from each other. Then from the extremities, take the arm overhead. When it gets vertical, I should say, this is your best opportunity to open the chest before the arm finishes. Stretch to your heels, stretch your extremities. Now you come up from the extremities. Be more sensible of your forearms and shins than your inner body. Stretch. Feet forward. Change sides. One thing at a time. Focus. Don't push just willy-nilly. Push super evenly. And exhaling, adjusting your stance. Keep that front leg foot, back leg foot. Groin soft, chest soft. Work from the extremities. Now to take your hand down. The thigh tucks into the hip sockets. That's what turns you. And the hand comes down to its brick. The foot abdominally stays on the floor and the outer thigh tucks to the hip socket. The groin is soft. Now stretch the arm extremities away from each other. And when that chest is fully opened, the arm goes overhead. You have to free the action. Use the extremity. And you come up leading from the extremities, legs and arms, not the loaded spine. It unloads the spine. Turn the feet, bring the feet together. Okay. Adho Mukha Svanasana. One more time. So just see how it's going. Start on the hands and knees. See if you can give up some of the, I don't know, inefficiencies in the organizing this action. Like there's some things where the hand, for instance, gets really straining to spread on the floor. Don't strain the hand. When it starts displaying strain, stop straining. Just put the hand down. There's no strain there. And stretch the forearm down. And draw the arm to the shoulder socket and away from the skull. And up you go. And the same thing happens in the legs as they straighten. That foot, even though the heel is up, that foot is reaching for the floor. That shin reaching for the floor, it changes the whole way the leg interacts. And that thigh comes up to the hip, socket. Give up the unnecessary actions, but never lose that sense of groundedness, that sensitivity of moving toward that ground. Now, this time, walk your feet forward to Uttanasana. And join your feet. More formal Uttanasana. So this may require bricks if they weren't required before, or a chair. Make it so you have room to maneuver. Don't put yourself in a bent-legged position. Join those feet. Even Chaya, join those feet. Now, if the knees join before the feet join, if it's not a big problem, you do bend your knees, join your feet, then you join your knees and you straighten them, keeping the knee joints absolutely even. Don't let one jump ahead of the other. If that's utterly impossible, and I mean it, yeah, that looks good, Chaya. If it is doable, do it. Now, at the same time, don't pull the head to the floor. First, go for the evenness of the feet, ankle bones, outer calves. You have a great view of your calves. Pull that outer calf muscle in and push the inner heel down. Big toe base joint down. Pull the outer thigh up. Keep the groin soft. And release. Come up. Okay. Please come up. Hands to the hips. Work from, don't bend the knees. Work from the extremities. Stretch your legs to come up. Those feet, heels press down. The thighs pull up. And this outer hip region becomes quite firm. You come up with straight legs, I hope. Now, get a blanket, have a seat on a folded blanket, and some of you will, if you're flexible, you'll work with a bolster. And you know, in seated poses, you don't want to get too strained in the forward bend. Right, so you work with a chair or a bolster if your flexibility warrants. Have a seat with the legs apart, Upavishta Konasana, seated angle pose. And you sit, you can see I'm sitting on a blanket to illustrate the idea of sitting up on enough support that the trunk can be genuinely upright. Stretch the extremities. They're very apart from each other now, which kind of means your sensations, you have to hunt for similarities and differences. Push out through from the knee out. Draw the outer thigh to the hip, keep the groin quiet. Turn to the right. Now you're gonna go forward towards your right foot and maybe use the chair to reach, or maybe you catch your foot, but the first limb that reaches for that foot is the left hand for the right foot. Now stretch both legs, yes, to your right. Stretch your forearm Stretch the foreleg and draw both thigh and upper arm back to the socket. Relax the abdomen. Now do this with 2 hands. And you take your support, your chair, your bolster, and if you don't need support, you just go. So your head comes to your shin. Now, for most of you, the elbows are going to bend a bit as you come forward with both hands, practicing both hands to the foot. What about a strap there if it's a little much? If it's not, stay holding. Otherwise, a strap around your foot. But I want your forearms awake and the 4 legs awake. Come up. So get a chair if you need some more support. Stretch those legs, wake up the feet, vertical feet, compaction of the calf. Turn. Your props, I hope, are where you need them on the left side. Keep that right leg thinking. Keep the right outer thigh tucking into the hip. You know how we always say, keep the leg you're turned away from, keep that outer thigh down. We always say that, but I'm connecting it to your foot now. I'm starting it at the foot. And from the foot, tuck that thigh and ground it and turn left. Stretch your left foot. From that stretch, tuck your left thigh to the hip. Keep them both on the ground. It's your right arm that's going to reach for the left foot. And it reaches from the extremities. And you might have an easier time catching that foot if you start from the extremity. Now 2 hands holding a strap or the foot. This makes you use your legs more. A lot of us, we relinquish the left foot, we pull it back, push it out against your hands. And then go forward. Alert forearms, alert extremities. In theory, the head should be supported. That's why I'm asking for bolsters or chairs and such, but come up now. Okay. Always right in the spot. Okay. Excuse me. Take your feet like this. Oh, sorry. First, get a bolster. Sit on that bolster. Sit on the edge of it, not the width of it. I just plunked it on my blankets. The height is good, right? Don't say no to height. Okay. Now, feet turn out. So it's active foot. Look, this foot is reaching. Reach to the heel. Reach to the toes. Don't be soft in the foot. Active, turning, active calf. This outer calf. See that groove there? Make that groove come in. It's like you're trying to pick your heel up. Pick your heel up. Bring your feet in closer and pick your heels up. Push your heel toward me, Pratima. Push the heel out toward me, and then keep it pushed and pick the heel up. Don't push with the toes. Pick the heel up. This is where you're going. Do this. Yes. So I want you to do as much as you can with the lower limb and foot itself, and only use the hand to just get you in position. But you are still turning. So Cliff, I see you there. You will have a much easier time if you get up a little higher toward the edge of the seat and you work like this. This way you will get a quieter hip and you can turn that heel. So do you see where this foot is? This foot is vertical. Do you see it? It's not like this. So to get this heel forward, you have to use this outer calf pushing. It's coming in to push. And if you feel how hard you're working here, do you notice everything I'm saying is here, but there's a response here in this hip. Sit higher if those hips are tight. Yeah, Pratima, good. Now, well, there is Baddha Konasana, but there is one-legged Mula Bandhasana. And two-legged trying on a chair. Now, Pratima, the knees are up enough. You see, your knees are up enough that you should go one leg out. Now, watch this knee you can work on. You can lean. Take this knee down. Yes. Lean. Yes. Now, oh, good. Now see if you can sit more upright. So you work to make this hip open some. Yes, Chaya. Cliff, push your heel back, not forward toward the knee. Push the heel away from the knee. Make this calf go toward your other side. Change legs. Help you let out. Take the other in. Yep, more height is good. Never an issue with more height. You got to be ambitious and healthy to do that. Oh, see, that leg works quite well, Pratima. So you have one tight hip. Yeah. So it can be useful to do this one leg at a time so you can give some attention to that hip in particular. Push from the knee to the heel and from the heel to the toes. The internal action is the same. The extremity is reaching out. And the outer thigh reflect back into its socket. Okay, so a gay way in the background there, feel free to tilt so that that knee goes down. Tilt your body, lean. So that knee comes down. Once it's down, push, pacify, and just let the trunk ease. Maybe another word is ooze away from that tight hip. All right. Yes. That looks better, Kay. Is it? Are you okay there? All right. So out we come, and you give your legs a stretch. And Cliff, you can come back to a bolster perhaps, or blankets. Let's just take conventional Baddha Konasana. So I'm going to sit a bit lower, but you may use any height. But don't let your knees be like so. You want to feel like you have that inward action of sending the extremities toward each other, reflecting that outer thigh back into the hip. Even holding the feet, the inner actions are the same. Those heels press toward each other, and the groins pacify out, outer thighs into the hip. Okay, so you can stay like that and watch me for a second. I'm going to set up the next pose. And if you're uncomfortable, you can come out, but stay there is good. Cook for a little while, as we say. So you want a blanket that is wide enough underneath your shoulders that your arms and shoulders fit on it. Don't take too narrow a folded blanket. At first, you want a brick, and you may need a strap. Is those with tight shoulders, a strap. And it's looped in such a way that you can stretch your arms behind your back straight in the way we've been working, right? Stretch the extremities. So if some of us are flexible enough that you can interlock the fingers behind the back, if this is possible, you don't need a strap, but if you do, take it anyhow. Here we go. Brick, belt, blanket. If you're very stiff, one blanket, even if you're stiff. So this is Chatushpadasana as typical, but with emphasis on these extremities and the reflection back in through the upper limb, the upper part of the limb. So the feet evenly push the floor, the forearms reach out, the shoulders tuck back into the sockets. All of these actions are kind of built in to this pose. And you find your brick. If your blanket is underneath where the brick should be, you have to move that blanket. Put that brick under your hips. Get things back. Now you can interlock your fingers or use that loop you gave yourself to reinforce, so you can change hand positions and experiment with that extremity. Lift your chest. Now, everybody go into this pose. You get 3 or 4 minutes to fuss around with this pose and get stable in it. So the head should be off the blankets, the shoulders on. So pratima, it's the other way. Shoulders on, head off. And that's good. Balance those feet, center those feet, point them straight forward, straight back. Push them down, stretch down through those calves, get them organized, lengthen your arms, lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Get your strap. Oh, and once you're up, Chaya, don't turn the head, please. It's not safe in the neck and shoulders. Now, those hands have to touch the floor. Reach through that forearm actively through the palm. Draw the shoulder back to the socket, press it down. Open chested, lift your ribs. If the arm stretches well, that armpit has enough softness to roll. Use your strap if those fingers don't interlock. Now, raise your hips up off that brick and do the leg action as we discussed. Press your feet down and draw the thigh to the hip socket. So from the hip socket, you lift. From the shoulder socket, you lift. Keep your abdomen soft. Stretch those elbows, Cliff. Stretch those elbows. Now, everybody, remove the brick, come out. Rest there for a second. And then roll to your side. Come up sitting and watch. So you can work with one blanket max. And I mean thin, really, it should be done flat on the floor. Awkward as it may be, I encourage you, unless it's really, well, try it. I don't think anybody is in too bad of trouble. Use a strap. Again, you're gonna have those arms stretching out behind you, straight, not bent. So whatever is necessary to get those elbows straight, not bent, you put that nearby. Now, can you see me? Oh, where's my head? Oh, yeah, just barely. Okay, that'll do. All right, feet down, hip width or a little wider, it's fine. And even outer calves working. Roll the arms. Same pose, yeah? No brick. Now, the hands find your strap or they interlock on their own. And I press down and reach through the extremities. Now, my feet are going, both of them, to my right. Not far, but just close to the right, so that my left hip now can sit down on my right forearm. Maybe it's the sacrum buttock. Anyway, I'm not off that limb. I'm on it, just the opposite side. And those who can't, you stretch the legs. And then you come back up and you skitter back in, rest in the middle and go the other way. Parshva, Chatushpadasana, I think we're going to call it. It's preparation for Parshva Setubandha Sarvangasana. Okay? It's the shoulder work. So you need some room for those legs to straighten. That's optional. Press your feet down, raise the hips, stretch the extremities, wrists, forearms, shins, legs. Roll those shoulders under. Raise those hips. Now, if at all possible, interlock the fingers. If the elbows will not straighten, don't do that, but you get that strap as tight as you can and still straighten the arms. Now, hips up, chest open. Rise up off your heels so you can get more lift in the chest and tippy toe to your right side. Keep your left shoulder down, tippy toe your feet off to the right side. And then lower your sacrum or left buttock onto the right wrist or forearm. So you are lopsided in this pose. And then stretch the left leg. Then the right leg, if possible. Now you have to stretch the extremities and take the shoulders to the floor. It does adjust itself after a few moments. Now, bend your knees and carefully raise the hips and tippy toe back to the center and stay elevated with those hips and adjust the shoulders if you need to get straight. You can't do it with your hips down. Now you can rest for a second if anything needs a rest. Now take your time, hips come up, shoulders stretch, extremities working, tippy toe to the right side, left side, beg pardon, tippy toe, feet to the left side, arms don't change, and lower the left hip, the right hip toward the left. See, those shoulders should not change, Pratima. You should wind up sitting on that forearm. Fix the arms. It's the side of the trunk that stretches off to one side. That's it. And if you've got the room, first the right leg stretches, then the left. Keep that right shoulder on the floor. Gradually, you stretch your legs. Gradually, you stretch your arms, and the chest accommodates. And bend your knees. This is a thing that is to open the rib cage. Bend your knees, come back into the center. And release from this and come out. Be there for a moment, appreciating, I hope, what your shoulders may have gotten from this. It's a deep shoulder opener. And then, let's see, can you roll over and lie let's see, I'll show you prone, but keep a bolster is a pretty good height. Keep a bolster underneath your forearms and forehead. Feet apart. As you relax in this, you may need to push the bolster away or stretch the arms or adjust the ribs, because you may feel like something relaxes a little bit and lengthens in the neck and spine. So cross those arms and rest your forehead. Let your feet be apart, maybe sticky mat width, toes toward each other. Back thighs broad, heels wide. And now roll over to proper supine shavasana. Blanket under the head if you like. Any other support that is suitable for you. So Chaya, did that prone shavasana, was that painful on your back or okay? Was good? Okay. Okay. Make sure the low back is long and the buttocks are released. No twisting or bunching of the skin or muscle of the back, shoulder blades. Your feet can be as wide as the mat. They can also be wherever you can rest them deeply. So now the extremities are not reaching. The senses not reaching. In Shavasana, there is no willful outward activity. The senses don't volunteer to turn out. Senses aren't volunteering for anything. So it has come to pass that class is over. So you can stay as you are, or you can sit up. Namaskar. Happy Monday.